Dark types are among some of the most unique and elusive types in the world of Pokemon. As of late, they are one of the strongest types in the competitive scene, but when you look back at their history, they haven't had it too well. Starting out in Generation 2, there were only 6 Dark-type Pokemon available. Not only that, 2 of them did not receive an evolution for years. And to add even more salt to the wound, the Dark type encompasses mostly physical attackers, but the physical special move split that each type has today did not exist until the 4th generation. Needless to say, they've definitely come a long way in the modern age of Pokemon. But I want to go back, all the way to Generation 3 in Pokemon Emerald. I want to see how far I can go with only Dark type Pokemon. With that out of the way, I'm going to be using the Hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, where I can only use the first Dark type I encounter in each area. If they faint, they cannot be used in battle, as well as the other slew of handicaps that may apply. If you do end up liking the video, leaving a like or subscribing is greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's get into it. Now, normally the Hoenn starters are not part dark, so you can already tell something's a little off. I'm starting the game with a Houndour. Technically it is available in the Hoenn region, but only in the post game. I didn't expect Houndour to be anything over decent, so I figured it would be fine to use as well. I name him Nyx and quickly head over to Route 103. I won my first battle against Brendan, and now I'm allowed to catch other Pokemon thanks to him giving me some Pokeballs. With that, I'm able to catch a Pooch who I name Coco, who will surely be a pup of many talents. Both Nyx and Coco actually have neutral natures, which I'll take over something of the lower important stats. Now, these two doggos alone might not be able to take on the first gym because rock types are too tedious to get through. Thankfully on Route 102, I'm able to pick up my third and final team member for the beginning section of the game. Unfortunately, it's super hard to find with an encounter rate of 1%, but without it, victory is not guaranteed. So after around 2 hours of searching, please welcome Tengu the Seedot, who also happens to have a neutral nature. I also catch a Zigzagoon so I can teach it the important HMs, and as per rules, I will not be using it in battle. I help Wally catch a Pokemon instead of spend some quality time with my dad, but hey, at least I'm making friends. Before Roxanne's gym, I end up switch training Tengu so that he can evolve into a Nuzleaf, and I also taught him Bullet Seed. Challenging Roxanne, I lead with Coco. Coco throws some dirt at a literal rock, and that's enough to make it go blind. With that, I can swap Tengu in and set up a bunch of growths. After reaching +6, I can Bullet Seed her 2 Geodudes, taking them down in one shot. Nosepass comes in, but thankfully Bullet Seed hits once, then crits, taking Nosepass out. And that's the first gym badge. Before exiting Rustboro, I challenge Brendan to a battle. I'm easily able to swamp his Lotad and Torchic, so I head back in Petalburg Woods and pick up the Miracle Seed. It's going to be a big help for Tengu since his only grass move for the majority of the game is going to be Bullet Seed. I make my way back to Route 104 so that Mr. Briny can take me to Dewford. There's a few things I have to do here, like delivering the letter to Steven, but then I take a look at the next gym. Fighting types. Brawly must have been so happy when Roxanne called and said, "Hey, there's this girl, she's going for a second gym badge and she's only using dark types." Because my current squad would literally get pummeled. But then, I remembered. There's still one more Pokemon I could obtain right now, and without it, I don't think this fight would be possible without the luck of God. So in the depths of Granite Cave, I caught Fiend the Sableye. Due to his Dark Ghost typing, he's the only counter to Brawly that I have. With Brawly's Pokemon only knowing moves that Fiend's immune to, I'm easily able to pick up the second gym badge. I remember to pick up the Silk Scarf, which will come in handy later on for a future encounter. I deliver the letter to Steven and head back to pick up the XP share. I'm a bit on the fence about this item because while boosted XP is good, I only have 4 Pokemon and if any exceed the level cap, I can't use them. So for now, no one's going to be holding the XP share. With everything done in Dewford, we sail over to Slateport City. Admittedly, there isn't much to really do in Slateport, so I vent my frustrations out on the accepting Aqua Grunts. Their big boss comes over to resolve the situation with some talk about the calm ocean waves and magnificent blue sea, but apparently I'm just too young to understand. Afterwards, Coco evolves into a Mightyena and I head over to Brendan on Route 110. Fiend takes down Wingull and 2 attacks and in comes Combusken. Due to Fiend's ghost typing, I'm sure Combusken won't click double kick, so I swap into Coco and Intimidate lowers its attack. I'm expecting double kick this turn, so I swap to Fiend once again, but it goes for Ember. I get some chip in, but Combusken gets even scarier with a focus energy. I have Combusken down to red health, but I don't want to risk getting crit and swap to Nyx, who stops the Ember with Flash Fire. Nyx can finish off Combusken and in comes Lombre as the last Pokemon. After embarrassingly missing a bunch of Smogs, Nyx can use Ember for the win. Now that I've made it to Mauville, there's a few things I want to do. First up, the Jambling. I am going to gamble. Responsibly, of course. So after a bit of that, I can cash in my coins for a flamethrower TM. I head over to the Rust Turf Tunnel to pick up the black glasses for a nice 30% boost to my dark type attacks. Wally's blocking the gym, so I kindly ask him to vacate the premises with a little bit of coercion. Nyx also evolves into a Houndoom, so now I'm ready to take on the Marvel gym. I lead with Tengu against the Voltorb and hit a fake out. After hitting a few bullet seeds, Voltorb is down to about a fifth of its total health and I'm thinking, this thing is going to explode. With that thought, I switch into Fiend and of course, Voltorb goes boom. Now with my Sableye fully healthy, I can deal with Electrike, which is a little too close for comfort. Magneton comes out and I send in Nyx to KO with Flamethrower. Watson's Ace comes out and Flamethrower does a little over half, but he uses Thunder Wave and gets a berry heal. I swap to Coco, who gets brought down to 5 HP and paralyzed, so in the end it's up to Tengu to end the battle with a fake out. I'm still not able to get another encounter, but I'm taunted by one of my favorite Pokemon, Skarmory. Of all times for it to show up as my first encounter, it had to be when I just couldn't catch it. After finally reaching Falorba Town, I pick up the Dig TM. On a slight downside, my Pokemon are getting a bit too close to the level cap at 29, so I need to be a bit more decisive about the battles that I'm picking. I head over to Mount Chimney, making sure to avoid as many optionals as I can, and atop the volcano I challenge Maxi. He leads with a Mightyena while I send out Nyx. After a bit of potion stalling, his doggo faints and in comes Camerupt. Thankfully, Maxi is too broke to have better healing than Super Potion, so after a few switches to thin out the XP, and a nasty Ember crit, Camerupt goes down. Finally, Zubat comes out, which Coco can deal with easily. With that, Maxi leaves the meteorite behind and pursues other avenues in his so-called master plan. With Fiend, Nyx, and Coco hovering around level 27 and Tengu being basically unusable, I have to be very careful going into this gym. I feel like it would be too easy to rely on Nyx's Flash Fire, so I was gonna try to do it without him. Securing the path to Flannery and my team just at the cap, I take her on. Starting off the battle, I lower Numel's attack and immediately throw sand in its face. It lands at magnitude 7, but I make sure to keep the sand coming. With Numel basically blind, I start howling. Thank God it doesn't know how to echolocate. It does manage to land at magnitude 7 and an overheat, but Coco toughs it out with 13 health, which procs the Oranberry, allowing me to survive the takedown safely. And now Coco can click Dig, taking out her Numel, Slugma, Camerupt, and lastly her Torkoal. Never punished. To avoid that happening again, I chip her with Bite on her healing turn and dig once again for the KO. And with that, I've earned my 4th badge. Shout out to Coco for putting in the work here. Brendan happens to be in the area and gives us a pair of Go goggles. With this, I can catch a Cacnea in the desert portion of Route 111. Sadly, it's not going to be evolving until after the 5th gym, so it kinda sucks. Rebusha also has a neutral nature. What is going on? Anyway, it's time for some father-daughter bonding, so I head back to Petalburg to challenge Norman. To show him I'm not a little kid anymore, I torch his drunk panda and he sends in the deadbeat special, Slacking. Now, staying in and taking any move this guy throws at me would be a death sentence, so I swap the Fiend on the incoming Facade. I make sure to attack when he's loafing around and detect when he's able to attack me. There's one small issue though. I'm running out of detect PP. I notice Slacking likes to go for Yawn, so I swap to Tengu. Tengu has the early bird ability, so he wakes up in 2 turns and I can beat Slacking after a few turns of alternating between Growth and Feint Attack. We're not out of the woods yet as Vigoroth comes in. Feint Attack doesn't quite do the job, so I swap the Fiend on the potion turn. After a bit more swapping, Fiend can clean up with a Feint Attack, putting me in a prime position against Lanoon. Lanoon's running a scary Belladrum set, but since it only has normal type moves, Fiend can pick up the dub and we earn our 5th gym badge. Wally's dad gives me the HM for Surf and I can start getting some more encounters. Surfing to the east shore of Route 118, a fisherman gives me the Good Rod. I can use that in the ponds of Route 117 to catch, not a Magikarp, but a Corefish. Back on Route 118, I can fish up a Carvana. Sharpedo is one of my favorite Pokemon, so Bertol's going to be sitting in a box for a bit. Aboard the abandoned ship, I locate the storage key and can obtain the TM for Ice Beam. I also pick up the TM for Sludge Bomb and Doofrit in case I have a use for it later on. Rebusha evolves into Cacturn and Creed becomes a Sharpedo. After regaining control at the Weather Institute, I'm given a Cast Form, which I obviously can't use, but what I can make use of is the Mystic Water it's holding. With an actual team, Brendan isn't really much of an issue anymore and I can move on to doing bigger and better things, like getting my final encounter, and this one is just too good to pass up. Absol is great, as while it's a physical attacker, it learns some good special attacks like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower. So, of course, Kara is of great importance to the rest of the run. It's finally time for the 6th gym, so I head over to challenge Winona. Her Swablu is up first, and while Kara couldn't take it out in one Thunderbolt, it sets up a Perish Song. With my Pokemon on a timer, I pivot from Coco back to Kara and boost my evasion of Double Team. Seeing Tropius use Solar Beam, I decide to switch to Nyx for the easy KO with Flamethrower. This baits in Pelipper, who Fiend handles with a few Nightshades. Swablu comes back in and Parasongs again, but I can comfortably swap back and forth to Creed, taking out her Skarmory with 2 Surfs, her Swablu with an Ice Beam, and her Altaria with an Ice Beam crit. Creed is definitely earning his MVP status from here on out. I head down to Lily Cove and confront Brendan for the last time. This fight is relatively bland, but I get that you can access it as early as before Winona. It's nice that they do redeem the rival fights in Oras though, so that's something. I also picked up the TM for Giga Drain, which Tengu will be making use of soon enough. If you haven't noticed, he's been missing for quite a while. It's mostly because I just don't want to evolve him just yet. At level 49, Tengu can learn Extra Sensory, which is like most of the coverage this Pokemon's able to get. Heading up Mount Pyre, I make sure to avoid the 2 trainers with Smiling Death Traps and pick up the TM for Shadow Ball, the Lax Incense, and the Sea Incense. Both Team Aqua and Magma stole the orbs from the Pyre Ghost, so I'm off to put a stop to it. I head to Mount Chimney first, just in time to see that Maxie might just be colorblind. I mean, did he actually think the red lizard would need a blue orb? Before I can tell him to get his eyes checked, he challenges me to a Pokemon battle. He leads with a level 37 Mightyena, and I realize I might be a bit under-leveled. But judging by how Maxie's still broke, Nyx can take out his pup in 2 Flamethrowers. Camera Up comes in, so I swap to Creed, and whatever random EVs my Sharpedos got are definitely putting in the work. A Surf is able to take out the Camera Up, and now Crobat comes out. I send in Kara, but a non-critical air cutter does just above half my health. I swap to Coco to lower its attack, and with a bit of pivoting, I can safely bring in Nyx and take out Crobat with 3 Flamethrowers. After finally getting to tell Maxie that he might just see the world a little differently, he leaves in hope of finding another way to fulfill his plans. Apparently Archie used his time to steal a submarine, and I end up chasing them down to their hideout. Sadly, I'm stalled by Matt, allowing the submarine to escape once again. With no way of catching up to them in the vast seas beyond Lily Cove, I guess my only option is to take on the next gym. Usually, Tate and Liza are incredibly scary to go up against. Xatu sets up, while Claydol does massive damage to the entire board. Xatu is also capable of setting up the sun, which lowers the damage of my water attacks and allows Solrock to do some pretty gnarly things with Flamethrower and Solar Beam. Lunatone is also there. Yep, it's there alright. Thankfully, both Fiend and Rebusha learned some pretty decent moves at level 41, being Needle Arm and Shadow Ball. I do run into a bit of a close call though, as one of the gym trainers has a Wobbuffet, but thankfully no casualties occurred in that situation. It's now time for the gym fight against Tate and Liza. They lead with Xatu and Claydol, and I lead with Fiend and Berthold. Xatu only has Psychic as a damaging move, so I ignore it and pin Claydol with a Fake Out and Crab Hammer, nearly picking up the kill. Expecting a heal, I double into Claydol again with a Shadow Ball and Crab Hammer to take it out. Solrock comes in, but thankfully they both waste a turn using Calm Mind and Sunny Day. With that, another double up easily removes Solrock from the field. The battle is basically won at this point, but Tate and Liza are so intent on fighting that they sleep and confuse half my team. Thankfully, Rebusha can clean up Lunatone with a Needle Arm, and Feint Attack takes care of Xatu. Remember Maxie? Apparently Bro is stealing rocket fuel now. How did he think this was gonna work? Thankfully, Steven Stone is already on site, and I can help him forward off both Maxie and Tabitha. Creed is able to pick up 3 kills with Surf as they seem intent on annoying Steven's Metang. The bats come out for some more Confuse Ray shenanigans, but Metang finally locks in, one-shotting Golbat with a +6 Metal Claw, and taking out Crobat in the following turn. I'm able to take out the last camera, but let's break this down. Maxie was willing to risk the entire Hoenn region for a little bit more landmass. Is that not terrorism? Can't we just lock him up? We let them go, surprisingly, and I can pick up the HM for Dive from Steven to aid in my search for the submarine. I quickly use it to mark Sootopolis on my map and pick up the TM for Brick Break before heading back on my search. Finally locating the submarine, I enter the C4 cavern in search of Team Aqua's leader, Archie. His grunts are already stationed, but he's nowhere to be found, and I make it to Kyogre first, but Archie shows up just in time, ready to take me on. Obviously I have to make it a fair fight because I'm only walking around with 4 of my 8 usable Pokemon. After Rebusha shakes up the swagger and hits a Needle Arm, Archie wastes no time and switches in his Crobat, which confuses me again. Oh boy. I can swap to Creed, but my god, this thing does damage. Thankfully I don't get crit and I can land the Ice Beam to take it out. Mightyena comes back in, but for better positioning I swap to Fiend and I can take it out in a few Nightshades. With no other choice, Archie sends out his last Pokemon, and can we just stop with the confusion already? Thankfully, due to the attack boost, Fiend can easily take out Sharpedo with a few Shadow Balls. Archie then decides, let's wake the sleeping primordial whale. And we already know how that goes. After Maxie somehow gaslit Archie into thinking the blame was only on him, they both leave me behind to deal with what could actually just be the end of mankind. That's fair. Steven just shows up to tell me to come with him, and I arrive at Sootopolis to see the giants duking it out in the middle of the city. Okay. Anyways, I'm sent to the Cave of Origins where I cosplay as Dora to get Wallace to remember where Rayquaza is. I travel south to Sky Pillar in order to wake up Rayquaza, and I return just in time to watch this wonderful cutscene. With that, all is well in the world once more, and I head over to Shoal Cave and pick up the Nevermelt Ice. This isn't much now, but it might be clutch down the line. If I make it that far. Wallace gives me the final HM for Waterfall, and I'm allowed to take on the final gym. Usually, this gym would be a breeze with a Cacturn and a Shiftry, but I already explained why I don't have one. Cacturn is too slow to face off against Juan Kingdra, so I've got to get a little bit creative. Juan leads with his Love Disc, while I lead with Coco. The attack drop doesn't matter, but Coco is a big deciding factor in how this fight will go. Sadly, before Coco can even start, he gets confused and attracted to Love Disc, only managing to land a single sand attack. I decided to switch Rebusha in and Leech Seed so Coco can have some sustain. With the prior accuracy drop and Coco holding the Lax Incense, Love Disc misses the attract and I can finally swap to Kara to start Swords Dancing. With Kara at +6, holding the Silk Scarf, I'm easily able to sweep Juan's entire team. And with all 8 badges, I'm ready for the Pokemon League. Wally somehow did the same thing, so I had to remind him that his power of friendship is not as strong as the power of my Pokemon. Okay. Team time. Due to the obvious lack of versatility, some Pokemon are going to be doing most of the heavy lifting, and some sadly don't do their job as well as others. So I decided to leave Rebusha and Berthold behind. They had their time and it might cost me later on, but in the end it's my decision to make. I've made it deathless so far, so having more than a full team of Pokemon is already a blessing, and each one of these lovely Pokemon have been wonderful to travel with. The final squad will include Nyx, Coco, Tengu, Fiend, Creed, and Kara. My Pokemon prior to entering will be around level 55 as to be on par with Drake's team. So without further ado, let's challenge the Elite Four. First member is Sydney. He leads with his own Mightyena and I lead with Creed. With how every opposing Mightyena has been so far, it's satisfying to see it get one-shot by Surf before it can pull off any swag or shenanigans. Cacturn comes out, which Creed easily takes down with an Ice Beam. Shiftry follows suit and Crawdon comes in. Even with a Swords Dance, Crawdon can outlast 2 Surfs and out comes Absol. With no delay, Creed easily takes it out with a final Surf. Phoebe's up next, leading with a Dusclops while I send out Kara. I predict Dusclops will protect and set up a Swords Dance. I recall that most Pokemon who've used Protect up until this point will usually go for it again. I'm not sure if it's because it knows I'm hovering over the attack or not, but I quickly switch to Swords Dance and thankfully I end up making the right call. Due to that, the entire fight after this point is riskless as Kara sweeps through Phoebe's entire team. Third is Glacia. This is where things get difficult because the beginning matters so much. Celio is her first Mon and I'm still leading with Kara. I set up a Swords Dance and Celio sets up the Hail. I do get a bit greedy trying to sneak in a second Swords Dance and thankfully Celio does not get the additional paralysis from Body Slam. With a plus for attack Silk Scarf boosted Slash, I can easily take out her Celios and Glalie without much issue. In comes the hard part, Walrein. This fat, rotund, and rather ugly Pokemon is too beefy for my boosted Slash. If I had returned, maybe this would be a different story, but Kara was nowhere near max friendship. With Kara under half and Walrein staring me down, I don't want to leave it up to a Slash crit if it means there's a chance I lose Kara. I switch to Creed to take whatever Walrein decides to dish out, and Ice Beam does a little over half. I land a Crunch, but it doesn't do as much as I was hoping, and Creed drops down to red health. I'm not sure what move Walrein will go for, so it means that switching to Tengu right now is a bit unsafe. I swap into Fiend and Walrein uses Surf, knocking me to under half health. Thankfully, the healing from Fiend's Citrus Berry shoots up a bit of HP, but another Surf would still KO. I fake out Walrein to get some chip, but I end up making things worse by proccing its Citrus Berry. I swap to Coco, but I can only get a single Crunch in before being brought down to red health. With my team low, and Nyx unable to even do anything in this battle, I have to take the risk. I switch into Tengu, holding my breath, but to my relief, Walrein goes for Surf, allowing me to take it out with Giga Drain the next turn. The last of the Elite Four is Drake, and this is a daunting task. mostly because Shelgon's Rock Tomb is annoying for my entire team. I lead with Coco and Howl first to not waste a Protect turn, and as I said earlier, the NPCs really like their double Protect. On the third turn, I can Sand Attack their lower accuracy, but I take a Rock Tomb in return. Thanks to the attack drop from Intimidate, Shelgon's damage is reasonable. I can now switch to Tengu and begin stacking growths. Shelgon hits a Rock Tomb, which is fine. I don't really outspeed the mons that are going to be coming out anyway. Thanks to a few misses, Tengu can get to +4 special attack and use Giga Drain to take out Shelgon, healing back to full. In comes Flygon, who goes for a Flamethrower, but I take it and retaliate with Giga Drain to knock it out. Altaria comes in and uses Dragon Dance. I try to kill it with extra sensory, but I end up having to take an Aerial Ace in return. This messes things up because now I can't stay in on Salamence, forcing me to swap the Creed on a Dragon Claw. I was hoping for Flamethrower there, but now Creed is basically unusable. I can take out Mence with an Ice Beam, but arguably the scariest Pokemon on Drake's team has yet to come out. I pivot to Coco, lowering its attack, softening the damage from Body Slam. With nothing wanting to take a hit upon switching in, I have to make a tough decision, and I decide Coco has to go down if I want to see things through. So with a heavy heart, I stay in, hoping that the lag sensor can maybe allow Surf to miss, but my luck isn't so merciful. With that, Kara has the opportunity of a safe switch, and knowing I'm faster, I can set up a Swords Dance. Kingdra uses Surf and Kara survives, landing a critical hit slash to take Kingdra out. Drake is done. With only one more challenge left, there is no other choice but to press on and challenge Champion Wallace. Wallace leads with his Wailord. I growth once, hoping for a Blizzard miss, but we're unlucky and Tengu gets brought down to critical health. I'm able to take Wailord out, healing to near full, but in comes Melodic. This thing is too beefy and I can't afford to switch out to any of my remaining Pokemon. Melodic lands an Ice Beam, nearly taking out Tengu, who claps back with a Giga Drain, dealing over half. Sadly, Melodic Citrus Berry procs, healing it slightly, and I know Tengu can't take another attack. With that, I let Tengu go down. Kara can once again come in and put in some work. I Swords Dance while Melodic recovers, and Swords Dance again, hoping it goes for Toxic. Instead, Melodic goes for Surf, nearly taking her out. But we can manage and Melodic goes down to a critical hit slash. Tentacruel comes in, but it's swiftly removed with another slash, followed by Ludicolo with an Aerial Ace. Just two more Pokemon to deal with. Kara uses Slash once again, but it doesn't kill, and I have to watch as Whiscash goes for Earthquake, taking her out. I bring in Fiend to set up the Sun and swap to Nyx. Whiscash decides to set up an Amnesia while I pray for the Solar Beam one-shot. This darned fish survives in the red, leaving me with only 2 Pokemon left. With my 2 remaining Pokemon, victory looks impossible. Almost impossible. I send in Creed and give it my best shot. With the sunlight fading, Creed lands a critical hit Ice Beam, taking out Whiscash before it can do any more damage. Wallace sends out his last Pokemon, Gyarados. With Gyarados' moveset, this could be the end. As a Hail Mary, I click Ice Beam and it freezes. Creed, you are the best shark a man could ask for. With Gyarados frozen solid, Creed lands another Ice Beam, then takes it out with a crunch, winning the battle and bringing us to the Hall of Fame. And that was Emerald using only Dark types. This challenge was definitely an interesting one. I think I would have an easier time if I brought my Cacturne, but hey, it all worked out in the end.